Hi, my name's Daryl Hatton. I'm founder and CEO of ConnectionPoint. We're best known for our enterprise crowdfunding platform fundraiser, but we're wanting to talk today about a new brand that's coming out called CocoPay. The topic is around collaborative community payments and how you can attract customers and increase revenue using crowdfinancing. Crowdfinancing is a fintech innovation where crowdfunding is used to help a community of friends, family, and neighbors and coworkers work together to purchase a product. I've been speaking about the future of crowdfunding for a long time. We're an early pioneer in the industry, and I've been doing things like talking at Bloomberg on the future of crowdfunding, not just on some of the current kind of cases and use cases that are going, but what has been emerging in the market. And I've also did a TEDx talk on philanthropy as entertainment and how we're using philanthropy to change the funding model for not only charity, but social enterprises and businesses. One of the complaints I have, or one of the issues I have, is that what crowdfunding is to people usually depends on what part of it you're touching. It's like the old blind man and the elephant story. If you were touching the trunk, it might look like a snake. If you're touching the ears, you might think it was a rug. If you're touching the tusks, it might think it was a spear. And this is very much the same problem with crowdfunding, partly because it has become such a very large and complicated marketplace. There are a whole variety of applications for crowdfunding that people are not even necessarily aware of. As innovators work to take this new model of collaboration and access to marketing through social media and apply to funding problems. So at the moment, we can fund personal or professional charitable projects. We can fund education or paying off student loans. There's funding for travel or equipment for amateur sport teams. And there's for providing patronage, for helping artists have supporters who will directly support the work. It also includes selling equity or debt as securities, peer-to-peer lending, or royalty rights, or even fractional real estate investing. The scope is very large and expanding all the time. But what I'd like to talk about today is to focus and zoom in on one of the newest emerging use cases, which is crowdfinancing the purchase of a product or service. When we think about innovation, really there's only two types of innovations that we can switch on. We can look at a problem in one way, such as what is it that we're already doing that we could do in a new way? Or what is the technology enabled that was impossible before that we can now do? Personal crowdfunding is something we've done for centuries. In many of our communities, especially in early part of last century, it used to be called passing the hat, where if someone in our community was having financial or medical or health or tragedy, they'd had something happen to them, their house had burned down, someone in the community would go to the places where community gathered. And that could be workplaces or school or the market or a church. And an initiative would happen to pass the hat. And literally a hat would be passed around between people, and people in the group would reach into their pocket, add some funding to the hat, and that would go on to the beneficiary to help them with the hard time. In these cases, this was our form of social networking, gathering in these places, at the church, at the community hall, at school, at work. So you could say that this form of crowdfunding is personal or direct charity. We're helping someone in our community without the intermediation of a charitable or charity or some other formal organization. In the age of the internet, this passing the hat phenomena has moved online into personal and charitable crowdfunding. The internet's transformed our lives, and with it, the social network structures that we have. In just the last 15 years, our behaviors have evolved to encompass maintaining large numbers of online social connections, irrespective of the physical distance between us. Our communities both constricted locally and expanded internationally or nationally, or certainly geographically. Crowdfunding sites like GoFundMe or Go Get Funding or Fundraiser enable individuals to create personal charitable appeals and share those with family, friends, and personal social networks on social media like Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. A typical crowdfunding site makes it easy to create a campaign, talk about the story of the cause, why it's important, launch it into social media, and use that media to share it to friends and family so that the campaign gets exposure and then helps process the payments that are coming through and connect the people in the community so that the donors know about the project and the beneficiaries know who gave to them. And this was typically used, and one of the most frequently used cases for it is in medical fundraising. So an example here, this poor little baby fell into a pool and just about drowned. The parents helped to raise a significant amount of money from friends and family in their community by telling the story of what happened with the child and what type of treatment was available, and they rallied a lot of support. People in the social networks help this campaign because they frequently have a connection, a deep connection with the beneficiary or their family. This isn't so much about helping complete strangers. Really, most crowdfunding works because it is the direct local community around a particular beneficiary. Now, there's another form of crowdfunding that gets lots of attention, and that's what's known as the Kickstarter Indiegogo model. And in this model, a creative project or a business will run a crowdfunding campaign to help get initial revenue in to help finance or complete the product or service. So in this case, this is one of the more famous ones where the Oculus Rift device, a virtual reality device, was crowdfunded so that the crowd prepaid for the product or service, and when they were finished, they received the benefit of that product. The innovation here is that the group, because we don't know whether or not the project will be successful, models like this use what is known as the all or nothing funding model. In the previous example, when we're doing a personal charitable campaign, every dollar that is contributed goes to the beneficiary. It's not held up for any reason. But in this model, with the Kickstarter or Indiegogo model of all or nothing, the campaign takes pledges from potential backers. Someone who would like to have this device makes a pledge that they will purchase one, and they use their credit card detail to secure that purchase. If the campaign reaches a funding goal, the amount of money needed to actually make the project commercially viable, all those pledges are triggered and the funds flow into the campaign. The advantage to this is that if there's not enough support in the marketplace for this particular project, no one has to lose any money because the pledges have no cost by themselves until they're triggered. So it's not as if the campaign took in a bunch of money, got partway to their goal, and then had to refund it all, because that would cost a lot. The advantage of using a model like this is that for a different form of project. So one of the emerging areas that is coming out is combining that charitable model where there's a personal beneficiary and the all or nothing goal-based model of selling a product or service, combining them together. So in this case, let me show you an example of one company that is doing this. This device is known as an A-linker, and it's a mobility device for someone who is suffering from some sort of lower body motor issue. For example, they may have had MS, or they may have had a car accident and had damage to their lower body. So this device is designed to improve their quality of life. Now, the company behind A-linker, the company behind the A-linker is also very innovative. And one of the things that they've done is that they've implemented crowdfunding within their website to help customers run a project to purchase a product or service, in this case, to purchase an A-linker. So what they noticed is that many customers were going to sites like Fundraiser or GoFundMe, and they'd run a project to try and buy the device. What they recognize is that they can take that same activity and facilitate it on behalf of their customers, help them run the campaigns themselves, and by taking the money in directly into their own banking, prevent some of the cases of fraud that might be out there where people are pretending to buy it or using those funds, not reaching their goal and having a frustrating experience of only getting part way towards their dream of owning one of these. So they implemented it within their own website, and you're seeing a screenshot of that here. And part of the thing that they do is, because this is a commercial transaction now, they prompt the donor or the fundraiser, in other words, the person who is running the campaign, for more information about themselves to help make this a more secure transaction. And then they take that information and they help them populate a campaign story that talks, in this case, about helping a young man get an A-linker device from his friends and family in the community. And you can see here that this is a screenshot of actual example from the A-linker site, showing that they raised over $3,000 towards this project. Now, the problem is, as I mentioned before, in funding this, what happens if someone doesn't reach the goal or exceeds the goal? Well, in the case of it doesn't reach the goal, this is the last thing we want to have happen. You've crossed a bridge part way towards where you're headed, and you can no longer move forward. There's a big gap there. By using that all or nothing crowdfunding model, where these campaigns would have to cross their goal in order for any of the funds to be released to the company, the risk of that is significantly reduced, almost eliminated. And at the same time, any of the additional funding could be used for other charitable purposes for others who are also looking for a device. So if there's an overpayment, it still has a benefit. Now, this model has been used by a whole bunch of different types of organizations, and they can use them at different price points. You can see on here that, using goal-based fundraising, there's a company called Enchroma, and Enchroma have these incredible glasses that help resolve color blindness in about 80% of the people who suffer from it. So if someone gets a pair of Enchroma glasses, they can see colors again. They're not a lot of money, relatively speaking, $370 here. But by running a campaign like this, it helps people who may be struggling to be able to acquire a device like this. If you look at the top left-hand corner, this is more of a typical price point for people fundraising. Is that Paige here is looking to raise $2,000 to help her get back into higher education. And if we go to the bottom left, this is an example of a much bigger campaign where someone was helping this fellow Ryan fund a brain treatment after having had a severe concussion. So in this case, the money is going directly back into the Watson Brain Center, and this level of money has been raised is quite significant and shows how much the community will participate in helping causes that are important. So it begs the question, with this kind of use cases, would crowdfinancing or crowdfunding collaborative community payments work for your customers? What are the characteristics of those customers that would make sense for using crowdfunding? A lot of it is around shopping cart abandonment. If you're noticing in your product that customers are really desiring the product but can't afford it, and that there's an emotional component to the product, that there's something there around it that would change the life or improve the quality of life for the user in some way, then this is a really easy to see candidate for using collaborative community payments. One of the other side effects of this is that the company A-linker, which we're showing here, has found that there's members of the community that buy into the social story, that really appreciate the work the company is doing in this way to help their customers purchase this product. that changes their life in such a big way. So one of the components is that they had a charitable campaign running at the same time as a brand or corporate social responsibility positioning statement where others can contribute to this fund, which is then used to help customers who are struggling to finish their campaigns, maybe not getting all the way through towards their goal, and being able to help them pay it off. Now, one of the side effects of this is very, very interesting in terms of business development. We know that word of mouth marketing is the most effective form of marketing. When someone who has your product is talking about it to friends, we naturally have tribal behavior where we'll check out or use those recommendations for our own purchase. With crowdfunding, with the social sharing that happens, this is a form of micro-influencer marketing. So the person who has looking to purchase the product or service is now sharing with their network that they've made the decision to purchase the product or service. And this can significantly spread the message about the product within a community. For example, people who are suffering mobility problems will frequently have friends in social media who are also suffering mobility problems. People suffering from Lyme disease and a treatment for Lyme disease might have friends who are also suffering from Lyme disease. So the benefit is to deliver a social media message about a product and its capabilities to a community of very targeted individuals with the recommendation or influence of a friend. So what we see in this is the convergence of three major trends. The idea of taking all or nothing crowdfunding and personal crowdfunding, putting it together with corporate social responsibility brand positioning to talk about the good work the corporation is doing in the community and help to have that trusted sense that this is a company to do business with. And then the idea of the micro-influencer marketing, where the customers and the support group around them are sharing information about the product or service through social media to a much wider audience at no cost to the company. These things all come together in collaborative community payments and what we call CocoPay. So your takeaways from this, if you will, is that collaborative community payments model increases revenue by helping customers who can't afford to pay for the product tap into the resources of their family, friends, coworkers, and neighbors to help them purchase the product. Their social sharing helps you acquire new customers for very low cost marketing effort because it is personal sharing. It's a recommendation to friends. And offering this in this way, customers that have been using this type of technology are noticing it enhances their corporate branding. They're finding much better results from the community and awareness of them in a positive light. So I'm based in Vancouver, as you can see Vancouver in the background here. And if you're interested in talking or communicating, just telling you that because I'm in Pacific time zone. But my contact details are up at top. Particularly email me at daryl@connectionpoint.com and be happy to discuss how this might work for your business or how this might apply for other areas in the world. Thanks for dropping by. I look forward to chatting with you.